want to talk about today, Bo?
I think we're going to talk about everyone who speak and just the spirit of what they speak and what's the responsibility. And are you trying to communicate with a tribe, or are you striving to communicate universally? Two, one. Greetings, family. This is your boy Antoni Bo. Welcome to the Antoni to Bo Show. Thank you for hanging with us one more time, coming on out. Thank you to the Shades of Unity team as we go forward in the ways of life. Hopefully this program will entertain your intellectual ears and eyes and suit your mind, and hopefully it'll shake up your heart and bring it in, and while you can reciprocate it and like, share, and subscribe your own life, and then share it with somebody else. Also with that, like, share, and subscribe. I want to give a shout out to all my Northeast Portland folks, to my parents, to my family. I want to say much love to the neighborhood, much love to all of our family around the world who we fellowship with, and that we learn how they walk through this life and their culture, and how it's in fellowship with our own. You know, revealing of culture is a wonderful thing when you have the sincerity of wanting to go learn. You know, the revelation part is very encouraging when you see how something is done differently. It's done differently, but yet it holds the same spirit at its foundation in what is the result. So in that, we love traveling. We love going through and seeing the difference. We can be from the front. We can fall back to the back. It doesn't matter. You know, we can be highly, we can be lowly. It doesn't matter. Just learn how to appreciate wherever your feet are at, and let it be sound and firm wherever you are at. Last time we were with you, we were talking about peer grouping. We were mentioning it because that day we had the ruling of the untimely passing of it was the court case of the Austin Metcalf young brother, and the defendant of the case, Carmelo Anthony. And it reminded me a little bit in how the people reacted from a peer type of situation as in society. It reminded me of George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin. So if you watched our last episode, I was really hitting on, you know, what really makes a peer. And in my conclusion, I come up with the answer that how can I be a peer of you if I have no like fellowship? How can I be a peer? So if I'm not familiar with you culturally, then it's very easy for me to misinterpret the motivation of why you would do a thing. So how can I judge you correctly if we don't fellowship? We have a big problem in America. America has been separated in a big fat pizza pie tribalism, to where all the tribes segregate themselves, and depending on how your life plight is to work, some have fellowship with the others, but some don't have fellowship with the others. I always say some, because of necessity, may have to fellowship with the other, but some because of privilege and superiority in how the system is set, they don't have to have no fellowship with the other tribe unless they choose to. And to my sad regret, a lot of time it's not a lot of choice being made to intentionally fellowship with a tribe. Now, what makes it even worse is we don't fellowship with the tribe, but then we turn around and we present ourselves as know-it-alls, or act like we're parenting, or we're instructing that tribe, which should never be the case if you, in your 365 days out of the year, your 24/7s and your zippy zillion billion seconds out of the day, if you do not fellowship with them, then how would you be a good parent? How could you parent them? Imagine this. You meet up with a young lady, bruhs, meet up with a young lady. Y'all get married. Next thing you know, y'all don't work out, but y'all end up having children. You move away. She with the children stay in California. You move to Maine. And moving to Maine, you only see the children once a year, let's say for 18 years. Question would be, would you really know those children? Because you don't have fellowship with them. You haven't raised them. Your proximity is not with them. And even in the proximity of likeness that you all would have in your behaviors and going through life's encounters, you're not even there to share that with them, to reduce it and to study it with them in prime time or live time. You're not even there. But then when you see them, you try to act like you're parenting them. Well, obviously, that's going to cause a lot of confusion. Well, culturally, that's what it is in America's tribalism. You try to parent certain cultures because for some reason you believe that you own righteousness and what's right, and so you parent them like you are the gatekeepers of what is right. And then you try to parent them. But the problem is, you live in Maine. They live in California. You all don't hang with each other. You're not raised with each other. You don't know the ins and outs. You never know their why. You see the outcome and the fruit, but you know nothing about their root. That's a huge problem in our communication today. And to my sad regret, we have so many people that's making a hustle off of this parenting communication, but yet have no proximity to each other. Now, imagine this. What if I told you when I was living in Maine, I tried to put on a bunch of surfer gear and carry my surfer board and act like I was in California. And with that outward appearance, I tried to convince you I'm really a Cali guy. And unless you're somebody who really fellowships in the culture, you would never know. Because as far as you can see, you're looking at my outward appearance. You're like, man, look at this flower shirt and his surfer board, and look at him, and he's hanging loose. But you would never know unless you had someone there with experience to be able to tell you inwardly, nah, that's a Maine guy. We got a lot of this going on in social media amongst influencers and podcasters. We have a lot of folks who want to parent tribes. but yet they have no fellowship. And then the ones who will claim that they have fellowship, they're just dressing. It's time to start calling it out. Very sharp, very direct. I have a serious beef. A serious beef. I don't have a beef with talking about what's right and what's wrong. I don't have a beef with that. I don't have a beef with correcting what's right and what's wrong. But I have a serious beef when you speak what's right and what's wrong, and then you allow people to jump on your words and like piggyback your words and ride your words like a rodeo bull to jump on a certain tribe. One of my biggest beefs going right now is I have this beef with so-called black conservatives. Not that they speak on right or wrong, but my beef is they're not being responsible with who they're feeding their words to in the audience or consumer base that they have. I'm seeing way too many Americans. You know what I mean when I say American, right? When I say America, America mean white. When I grew up, America mean white. I see way too many white Americans jumping on the back, riding their words like a rodeo bull or a rodeo Mustang, and using those words to double down on the ideology that they had of a certain tribe without no fellowship, but then feel like they are doubly justified now because they have someone who looks outwardly like, but then inwardly they have a whole different function. Remember we talked about skin deep? We talked about the outward appearance, but then the inward appearance. See, where I come from is like this. When I grew up, we were taught right and wrong. We were taught its consequences to right and wrong. And then even deeper than that, we were taught, and you don't want to know what? When you see someone doing wrong, you want to hope that they get it right. You don't want to celebrate over their wrong. And this is one of the biggest things that I see today as this podcast money is flowing in and influencer money is flowing in. We have a whole bunch of celebrating over wrong. My question is this. What are you talking about right for to then show me what's wrong if on the back end you don't want it to get back to right? What is your motivation? It seems like every time that I turn on and look at a podcast or look at an influencer, a black conservative podcaster or influencer, it's like they just go all the way in. Black community this, black community that, black community this. Accusers of the wrongdoing, but then no remedy given. Don't you know if you tell me what's wrong with me, you should be able to tell me what's right? Don't come and tell me you're search and rescue, but you can only search and find me, but you don't know how to rescue me up out of. But it looks like we're just celebrating. Because I know if you celebrate it long enough, America believes that these behaviors are inherent. And I say this. I would say yes and no. He said, Antoni Bo said, unrighteous behavior is inherent to black folk. Nah, ain't what I said. What I'm saying is unrighteous behavior is inherent to everybody. Everybody has the potential to move in an unrighteous manner or in a righteous manner. And it all depends on what you keep your climate around. Like when I was talking about Trayvon Martin, he was assumed to be something. And when we keep on being irresponsible with this rhetoric, and you paint these narratives, and you don't do it responsibly, see, when you talk to America, black conservatives, listen to me. When you talk to Americans, you have to be responsible with your words. Pertaining unto race and cultural awareness, they're like little children. They don't have much experience. They don't live it 365 days out of the year. And they already have a certain motivation in some instances where they already have a prejudged outlook. Because that's what the race construct came from in the first place. So with that being the case, you have to be very responsible. If you say that you're saying it because you want everything to get back to right, then right has a responsibility in it. If you're saying unright is irresponsible, that don't mean you let go of your responsibilities. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't believe most of you all have a motivation to want it to get back to right. I think you just want to celebrate over the downfalls of people. Worst thing you can do, and you all pray that Antoni Bo never does this, and I'm striving not to do it. And I can tell you right now, I don't think we're going to ever do this one. But we're never going to get in America and try to be the pick me. I'm one of the special ones. I'm not one of the special nothings. Every day in my life, I have to make a decision that I can either go the way of right or I can go to the way of wrong. And every day in my life, I have the potential to do either or. And since I have the potential to do either or, when I see someone doing right, I can relate to that. And when I see somebody doing wrong, I can relate to that. But to my sad regret, the race construct and the setting of culture have set 100% right and nobody admitting that they can do any wrong. And it's unbalanced. And right now, those who are taking the brunt of this in this space look like everybody is jumping on so-called black communities. Yeah, black communities have struggles. Oh, absolutely. Have a lot of struggles. But we ain't gonna be so foolish where we start looking at their struggles and you telling me you're not relating to the struggles. That means you are not relating to your dual potentials. And you have forgotten your potentials. And if you have forgotten your potentials, you're not balanced. I've told you before, draw a line between the middle of your body. I've told you to do that, draw a line. And then on each side, you'll see a twin. Each side, you'll see a replica of itself. That's your physical. Now think about spiritual. You got potentials. One side you can do right, the other side you can do wrong. You should always be relatable in that sense. No need for me to jump on someone else when I see that they're doing wrong and not think of myself. Of course we want to correct wrongdoing, of course. But what I'm seeing on these podcasts and these influencers, it's getting bad. It's getting very bad. And think about if you put out content every day and you are spewing some type of disdain towards the community. See, then it makes me know why it was split up in tribes. Like this was the intent. The worst thing is, really, see, I love my white American brothers and sisters. I love them. And I don't want nobody steering them wrong. But their appetite is going to have to be the one to be steered right. And a lot of these podcasters, influencers, they see it's a lot of money and influence of name, fame that is in jumping on so-called black communities and cultures. I'll leave you with this one. You name me what culture in this land is defined off of its teenagers and its real young people. As if it ain't no older 20s and 30-year-olds and 40s and 50s and 60s and like, come on now. Life is a balance. Summertime, beautiful appearance. All the flowers is out. Eventually, here come autumn. That's transitioning into wintertime. And then that same tree that had such a beautiful appearance now looks bare and naked. You're not exalted forever. It can be a pretty day outside, daytime, you see everything, but eventually that turns dark and that turns into night. You're not exalted forever. So those who would even have ambition to be exalted forever, nature itself shows you are not exalted forever. So why even have that motivation? That's a vain motivation. Family, remember, can you read a book without ink and paper? Yep, you can. How? Tell all the tribalism how. By going to talk to the author. All right, see you next time. Hey, peace be.